Welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios and brought to you by the fine folks at Hard Truth Distilling Company, located in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown, INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard, my friends, and I appreciate you coming to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio as we emanate from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, Hyatt Top Brick House number 1. And we've reached the halfway point. It is Wednesday, and it's all downhill from here, but uphill in a different way. Appreciate you joining us. As another great lineup today, Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will join us. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star and Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Plenty of other things to talk about. Appreciate the folks in the Andy Moore Honda hotline as always, lighting things up. And of course, we'll get to the Heisman watch. Indiana has in some more rare air, Indiana football. Appreciate everybody. Cheryl Sizemore, appreciate you, of course. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. There's no way around. I cannot ignore the situation going on within the IU basketball family, of course, and I think you all know what I'm talking about there, as a lawsuit was filed yesterday. Now, this is not, perfect question. Gritty asking, is there a third accuser and more coming, ? Yes. So, this is a class action lawsuit. For there to be a class action lawsuit, you need at least 2 participants. The first 2 that you saw yesterday, Harris Muzinovich and Charlie Miller, were just the first 2. I have spoken to multiple sources close to the situation, and yes, there are more coming. There will be more names added to this, not 1 or 2 names. I think this is going to be a lot of names. So it's a sad thing. And this is, we've seen this happen in lesser ways. I guess I shouldn't say lesser ways, but in just many ways in sports, in organizations. And it shows where certain people had too much power over certain areas, whether we're talking about USA Gymnastics or whatever the case may be. And so, but there's not a lot to talk about. I mean, it is what it is. And there's not a lot of the facts out yet, other than what we know, the parties, the initial parties. Like I said, there will be more. And I don't think it's something that any of them will really be able to talk about. Maybe, I'm not sure. That's usually something that they don't talk about when there's a suit filed. And that's generally by recommendations of their counsel. Yes, one of the current people listed Charlie Miller as a great friend of the show. I texted him yesterday with my sympathies that he's one of the guys that had to endure that. And it's just something that you wish didn't happen, but it's probably going to it will probably get worse before it gets better, but I don't know that this is going to explode into some gigantic USA gymnastics type thing, but I don't know how big it needs to be. It's a shame because it involves a very, very good family, a highly respected family in the town of Bloomington, and so you hate it for them. They're victims of sorts as well. So just a whole lot of people affected by this, and it's a subject that is still, even though we've dealt with it so many times, it never gets easy. It's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to deal with. It's not easy to talk about if you're involved in it as a victim. It's just something. These are things that you wish people didn't have to go through, but that's about it. I mean, there's not a whole lot else for me to say on that. Other than, like I said, there will be more. This is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but it's not. I don't think there's going to be more things claimed than what we've seen. I think that'll be what you see across the board. But again, I don't have the inside knowledge on that. I just know that there will be more names added. How many more? I don't know. But it's there'll be more. So there's that. Hey, we've got lots more to talk about. Speaking commitments, Indiana basketball has Eric Ribey announcing his choice today at 3 p.m. I think UConn has been trending, but that has been the case for Braylon Mullins, which I'm not sure that that's actually accurate for him. So we'll see. But the big man, Indiana could certainly use, announcing his choice at this afternoon. Let's see, there was one other thing that I wanted to oh, daggone it, I forgot what I was going to say. But man, that drives me nuts. The Heisman watch? No, do not expect to see Curtis Rourke on the Heisman watch. He's behind people like Dylan Gabriel, who is quarterback of Oregon, who is currently the leader in the clubhouse in the Big Ten standings with half the season to go, but he's the big name. I think that Curtis Rourke could outstat Dylan Gabriel, but he wouldn't sniff an invitation to the Heisman ceremony. Now, right now, the Heisman, there's not really a Heisman watch. Now, the reason I say that is because it's being ran away with by Boise State's running back, who has just been a madman. Ashton, is it Genty? I think how you say his name. He has more rushing yards than most Division I teams, and that includes Indiana. But I saw a graphic that showed that, which was mind-boggling. But yes, this dude is going crazy. He is on pace to beat Barry Sanders' unreachable rushing record of like 2,800 yards. He is just rolling. You've got Travis Hunter, who probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, playing both ways. I mean, he's a man. But right now, Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, is just the clear favorite. He's carried the ball 31 times. No, that was just in one win. 217 yards there. He's topped the 200-yard rushing mark in 3 games already this season. He has 1,248 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns in 6 games. Now, they don't play quite the schedule as most teams would play, but Boise State's had running backs before. No one's done anything like this. It's different when you're doing what someone like that is doing. Now, Dylan Gabriel, he was great and leading Oregon to that win over Ohio State was huge on national TV. He had a great day. He was 23 of 34 for 341 yards, two scores. And he also added 32 yards in a score on the ground. And they're probably going to win the rest of their games. You're not going to knock him out of that spot. But this is not even something to worry about because, like I said, the running back from Boise State is going to run away with it. So not that big deal. Yeah, you think Cam Ward, he's up there, but he's one of the peeps. But not he's 35 of 53 for 437 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the game-winning TD with 26 seconds left after their comeback victory over Cal last week. They're 6-0 for the first time since 2007. So, and Miami is the only team of note in the ACC. But, yeah, Cam Ward's up there, but along with Travis Hunter. But that's, of course, Jalen Milroe just because he's at Alabama. But that's about it. It's that deal's in the bank. I'm telling you. Jeanty is just killing it. We've got to take a break. Dylan Sinn is on tap and on deck from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm.
What's up, brother?
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, if I was any better, I'd be you.
All right.
What is new, my friend?
Not a whole lot. Just getting ready for the weekend here.
Getting ready for the weekend. There you go. I sang. They're always begging for me to sing.
Yeah, I'll be in Bloomington. Oh
well, yeah. Who's not going to be in Bloomington?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, who won't be in Bloomington is the easier question to ask.
Yeah.
I mean, this game's going to get a lot of attention. And
it's going to be a full house.
I know both teams need to win the game, but Indiana needs it so they can continue to show that this is no fluke, that they're no fluke, because they're getting respect and people believing, but they still just don't quite think it. I don't know, but I'm sticking with 11-1. I'm serious.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, no, I like. There's path to it. They're any favored.
Well, they have to go 11-1 to make the college football playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
All right, we got about 30 seconds.
Got a new background here, it looks like, huh?
Oh, yeah. You know, got to liven things up.
All right. Look at that. Got your Reynolds Family Dentistry sign up there in the corner. That's good.
Got to take care of the peeps and take care of us.
That's right.
I'm going to get this one started.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. Hard Truth Distillery, of course, located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana. They're the largest and the biggest craft distillery around. Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth delivers so much more. If they don't have Hard Truth where you shop, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. And here to deliver some more of the Hard Truth, our good friend Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How's it going, my brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
It is always a pleasure, and for us, so just to quickly mention it because I could not ignore it, but the suit filed against Indiana yesterday by a couple of former basketball players, and I keep wanting to make this clear, this is a class action lawsuit. This is not just these two guys. Those are just the first two, and I guess they kind of take the bullets, so to speak, as being the guys named initially, but they will not be the last to come up. So there's just more to come out, and so that's why there's not a lot of information other than what everybody else knows. And it's just a kind of a wait and see how the rest of this drops.
Yeah, no, I mean that's kind of the way you have to look at it. Is there's going to be more information that comes out about this. There's we already saw the story as it broke 6 weeks ago now about that, and this is kind of following on top of that. So yeah, there's obviously going to be more information that comes out as we go. It's obviously not anything you want to hear at all. And so I do think that it's hard to say anything right now in terms of just how this will play out because we don't know. But yeah, it is something to obviously monitor here going forward.
Yeah. And like I said, there's not a lot to say on it. So there's not a lot that I can comment to. So, but for the people that are, suggesting why wait so long and this, that, and the other thing. First of all, you got to understand when this happened, all of these people were kids. These guys were all kids. And not only that, they were in the pressure of the situation they were in, number one. Number two, it was made known to people, apparently. So don't jump to conclusions I guess is my ultimate point. So instead of being accusatory and things like that, I would hope that by now people learn you got to wait because there's always more information coming. So that's that. But we'll move on from there. Gigantic football weekend coming up for Indiana, of course. It is probably the biggest homecoming weekend in the history of Indiana University. Seriously, when and all told, with all that's going on, first of all, the game in and of itself is huge. It's against a big time opponent. It's against an opponent that is very highly respected. It's against an opponent with a traditional name that means a lot to beating. It's the best team that Indiana will face up until now. And then you've got Hoosier hysteria going on over the weekend. So it is just a gigantic weekend for Indiana athletics. And the game was sold out a week and a half in advance. They've already sold out the Michigan game. I'm pretty certain the Washington Purdue will sell out, as I assume that all four of those games will sell out. But the game at hand is Nebraska. Nebraska also had a bye week, which is kind of unusual leading into this game. And Dylan Raiola, the true freshman quarterback, he's been playing pretty well. So this should be a damn good game that we see on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be a significant test for Indiana's offense. This is kind of good on good. There are some advanced metrics that have Nebraska as the best defense in the country, not one of the best, but the best defense in the country. Indiana's offense has been, by the metrics, one of the best in the country on its own. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a good on good in that situation. Nebraska's offense has struggled for several weeks now. Raiola is a true freshman, obviously one of the top recruits in the entire country. They're over the moon to have him, and he showed early in the season that he is as advertised in terms of just the talent. He's still figuring things out on a down-to-down perspective. The offense hasn't been super explosive, but they've been able to make some big plays and score some points against lesser defenses. We'll see how well Indiana's defense does. Their defense struggled a little bit against Northwestern. I do think part of Indiana's struggles on defense against Northwestern were the results of Jalen Walker being hurt. I think he's one of their best players on defense. I think having him out for the final 2.5 quarters of that game was part of the issue for Indiana on defense in that game. So I think we'll see a better version of the Hoosiers against Nebraska on that side of the line of scrimmage. But it will be a test for them as well against an offense that can be explosive, if not particularly consistent. So it is Indiana goes into the game favored by about 5.5, which is something that it kind of tells you that even as the national consciousness struggles to catch up with Indiana and how good they are or might be, the people who know in Vegas they absolutely believe in the Hoosiers. Now you still have to go out there, as Kurt Seghetti likes to say, and go put it on the field. But the people who know things believe that Indiana is for real and is legitimate, and not only can win the game, but is favored to win the game. So I think that matters as kind of a baseline setting for this game, is that they should win, right? I know that there's a lot of people kind of still trying to wrap their heads around that, is that Indiana is the better team on paper in this game. And that, again, that doesn't mean you win the game. That doesn't mean that you're going to go out there and dominate. But it is. These are two teams that are pretty good, but Indiana right now is the better team.
I agree with that exactly. This is a game of something's got to give. I just put up some stats for you. The IU offense averages 48 points per game. That's through 6 games, people. That's not, a 2-game anomaly. This is through 6 games. They also average 512 yards of offense. That's a lot. The Nebraska defense has given up 11 points per game and 275 yards per game. So I do not think that, I think obviously this is going to be the toughest defense the Hoosiers have faced, and they probably won't reach these marks Saturday of 48 and the 5-12, but I think that they will still be in the upper 30s and upper 400 yards of offense. And I don't think that Nebraska, their offense has not been this productive. As a matter of fact, they struggled against even Purdue. So Indiana's defense has also been pretty stout. They're giving up 14 points per game. I don't remember how many yards per game, but it can't be that much. So I just think this is a case where Indiana's offense is just that much superior to Nebraska's offense. And if all things are equal defensively, which they are probably pretty close, let's say even if you give the edge to Nebraska in defense, I still don't think it's going to be enough to stop. It will slow down, but it will not stop this Indiana offense. They have too many weapons in too many different ways of coming at you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that there is a possibility that Indiana just scores 28 points in this game, and that's more than enough. I do think that Nebraska is going to attack them differently than Northwestern. I think Northwestern has a pretty good defense too. And Indiana kind of sliced and diced them for much of that game. I think Nebraska is going to learn from that. They have a good defensive coaching staff. Matt Rule is a very good coach, and they're going to have some stuff ready. I don't think all that RPO stuff that Indiana has been running so effectively all season is going to be quite as effective in this game. If anything, Nebraska is going to kind of sell out to stop that. So we're going to have to see Indiana do some things different. They might have to stretch the field sideways and go sideline to sideline and hit some stuff maybe down the field. They haven't hit a ton of deep passes this year. There have been some, obviously. Elijah Surratt obviously has been a great deep target for Indiana, but they might have to go a little bit over the top in this game as compared to some of those 20-yard chunk plays over the top, or 20-yard chunk plays over the middle that are just kind of open like they were against Northwestern. They might have to rely on the run game a little bit more because, again, I think Nebraska is probably going to drop 6 or 7 in coverage on most plays and say, hey, can you run the ball against us? Can we stop you with 4 guys up front? So I'm interested to see how that plays out. I think that this is, again, it's good on good, right? Like it's a fascinating football game because these teams are both good. That's not something you usually hear about an Indiana football team, but that's what this game is. And it's 2 coaching staffs that know how to get their teams prepared, which is also something I'm interested in, is that Matt Rule and Kurt Cignetti know how to get their team up for a big game. And I think that is that makes it fascinating as well, that these teams are both going to be ready to go. I wonder if we're going to see some chippiness early in this game because there's 2 weeks of pent up energy for these teams off of bye weeks, and they are both going to be emotional and ready to roll. Like this is a big game for Nebraska too. They have not been to a bowl game I think since 2016. They're trying to get bowl eligible. It's been kind of a big issue for them over the last several years that they've had several chances to get to 6 wins and have lost almost all of them. Including 3 straight at the end of last season when they were 5-4 and finished 5-7. So this is a big game for them too, and they are trying to build slowly and steadily and get back to where they want to be under Matt Rule. And this is a measuring stick game for them now after they lost to Illinois earlier this year in a game that I think a lot of people are disappointed by. They want to go out there and beat a ranked team and get to bowl eligibility and really feel like their season is still on the upward trajectory that they hoped it would be.
Yeah, and this is, like you said, it's huge for Nebraska because they don't want that second loss. That second loss does not wreck your season, but it does put you in a category, and a category of, okay, you're out of the shot of being elite to me. And because you have to go 11-1 in the league to be in that upper category. And once you're out of that possibility, Michigan, they're out. They're done. They to me, there is no path to the college football playoffs for Michigan. Although that's crazy to say this with this many games left, I just cannot imagine them going on a 6-0 win streak.
Sure,
they're not
they're not that good. They're a good team, but they're not that good. Other than Ohio State, I'm not sure who else they have to play, but they have to play Ohio State, and that would be a shocker for to see them beat the Buckeyes this season. They're just not as good, I don't think. But it's going to be wild. I talked to Mike DeCourcy yesterday about the fact that the Big Ten getting 4 teams into the Big Ten, and that's another thing for Indiana. If they want to go to the college football playoffs, they don't have a choice but to go 11-1. And even if they did, they would still be the 4th Big Ten team to get in, is my estimation of how these things will play out. And beating Ohio State and Columbus, I don't have that on my bingo card. Even as positive as I've been for IU football, I that's not one that I have. So it's got to go 11-1. And we'll see.
That's right. And because the way it works out is that it's possible that Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon all finish 11-1 or better. So Indiana could finish 11-1, and as you said, still be the 4th team in that category, because Ohio State and Penn State still have to play. Penn State and Oregon do not play, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, it's possible that all 3 of those teams go 11-1. And IU would have to go 11-1 to even have a chance. I think they would get in at 11-1. I think that they would be very hard to keep them out. But the problem is it's so hard to game out because the SEC has so many teams that right now are in the mix, but they all play each other at a certain point, or some of them do, some of them don't. But it's just a question of how many teams are you actually going to get in from the bigger conferences. I do think it's probably going to be 1 bid for the Big 12 and 1 and maybe 2 for the ACC. We'll see, but that still only leaves you 9 total. If you take 2 from the ACC and 1 from the G5, that's 9 total. And so we'll have to see how that would game out.
Well, Notre Dame's going to make it in.
Notre Dame still has to win out. I'm not convinced that they can. They have
got to go to USC.
They would get in at 11-1. They have to go to USC. I mean, they before they go to USC,
Army
they have
and
to
Navy.
play Army and Navy.
Yeah,
both
Army and Navy,
ranked.
both teams. Yes,
and who have not been really like both of those teams are just blowing everyone out. But they are as good as they have been in a very long time. Both of those teams. And Notre Dame has to play both of them away from home. They play Army up in New York at MetLife Stadium, up in New Jersey, I should say, I guess, up in MetLife Stadium, and they play Navy at Yankee Stadium. No, I have that wrong. It's the other way around. It's Navy at MetLife and Army at Yankee Stadium. So they have both of those before they go at USC. So I am not convinced they're going to go 11-1. I think they get in 11-1, but I don't think they get there. I think they probably finish 10-2.
We shall see. We need to take a pause for the cause and remind you that this segment was brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry and Free Think Apparel. Make sure you reach out to freethinkapparel.com. Of course, we'll be back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios for more right after this.
Segment is brought to you by Free Think Apparel.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their Cinnamon Vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. All right. Now we can talk. Let's see. Are you coming down so you're coming down Saturday, right? Are you coming down Friday?
Yeah, I'll be up. No, I have to cover high school football Friday night.
Well,
I was thinking about.
I'll be honest with you. I don't like having to go. I mean, I don't want to go to
Covering
Hoosier area, to be honest with you, but you kind of have to.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
I said
Jim, my bad.
Hoosier Hysteria is not something I really want to go to. You just kind of have to. Oh, you're fading on us.
Yeah, sorry about that. What did you say? My fault.
I said that I don't particularly want to go to Hoosier Hysteria, but you just kind of have to.
Yeah.
There's nothing you're going to gain from it. There's nothing to be gained.
No, not really. I mean, they're scrimmaging, right? I guess there's seeing these guys on the court is the first time we've seen that, which is nice, I guess.
Which is nice, I guess.
Yeah. It's same thing with the women. We get to see the women play for the first time without Mackenzie Holmes. See what that looks like. Just see some of these players on the court. Like we spent the entire offseason talking about how some of this stuff is going to work. Offense is going to look different for both teams, really. Seeing on the court be interesting, even if it's just an inter-squad scrimmage.
Big Ten women's basketball is going to be a fist fight.
Absolutely. Conference.
I mean, a fist fight. And guess what? I think there are 6 teams from the Big Ten currently, and I'll save this for the AP Top 25. And guess who one of them is not? Iowa.
Yeah. They're going to take
Iowa.
They're going to take a significant step back, I think.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they're big. The thing is, the West Coast schools are really, really strong in women's basketball. Like that is where the Big Ten gained the most with the West Coast schools. Is like USC and UCLA are both awesome in women's basketball. Oregon was good and they've kind of faded, but they're trying to get back. Washington has been good over the years, so it's that's where they gained the most was with the women's basketball right away. Anyway, I think, yeah.
We've got an IU basketball game coming up in
11 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say just barely over a week and a half.
Yeah.
It's nuts. Crap.
I do want people. Oh God, I am dreading that game, quite frankly, because I know people are going to overreact to it. It's an exhibition game, guys. Like last year, Arkansas beat Purdue in an exhibition game. Purdue went to the Final Four, and Arkansas missed the tournament.
Oh, remind me. I know. Let's see. What the hell's his name? Oh yeah, Zach Edey had an outing against the Pacers.
23 points.
23-9.
Yeah. You look good.
Yeah, less than 20 minutes, too.
Yeah, 19 minutes.
All right, we got about like 15 seconds. Get it ready.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios at Hard in Indiana Sports Speed Radio on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us, no matter where and how you're listening. Our good friends at 97.7 The Ref, ESPN, always the right call in the Evansville area in southwest Indiana. The voice of the region, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, WJOB, and over in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. And Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. So we're kind of reaching all around the state and beyond today. But then for those of you on YouTube, of course, we appreciate you. And if we're not in an area where we're on radio that you'd like for us to be, that's easy. Call up the station and tell them you want Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And that's the hard truth, no doubt. Coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, Dylan Sinn with me from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Zach Edey had a nice outing against the Pacers. night before last for the Grizzlies, 23-9 in 19 minutes. And that's something there. That's any coach in the NBA will take that all day and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I think what I was surprised about by watching that was that I think there was kind of an assumption coming out of college that he wouldn't be doing nearly as much back to the basket work with the ball, because that's just not how the NBA is run, generally speaking, anymore. It's so much pace and space and shooting threes and all of that. But it looked like a Purdue game to a certain extent. They were giving him the ball in the block. He was taking 2 dribbles, getting to his left shoulder and going with the right hand hook, and it was going in. And it looked like a Purdue game. They were running sets for him to get the ball in the post. And I don't think they're going to do that nearly as much during the regular season, because I don't think Morant was playing a ton in this game. It's a preseason game, obviously. Why would he? But I do think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting that they were running sets for him to get the ball in the post. I think that's going to be a part of their offense this year, because there is probably maybe 1 or 2 or 3 players in the NBA who can really defend it. So every once in a while, you run a set for him to get a jump hook from 12 feet, and it's going in 65% of the time. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they make use of him, because clearly they believe that he could be a good player. They wouldn't have taken him that high if they didn't. And I'm sure that because they took him that high, they have a plan to use him. So I'm interested to see how they use him. And I do think that he'll be able to make an impact, which is pretty cool for a guy who a lot of people didn't expect to ever play. Ever make an impact.
Get a little, there we go.
Break
it up from Dylan there. I think we're losing you a little bit, my friend. Hopefully get you back. But yes, this weekend, not only do we have the Indiana has a huge weekend with Hoosier Hysteria tipping off, of course, on Friday. Yesterday, we had Trisha Whitaker with us, who will be hosting by herself, no less. And again, big thanks to Trisha for coming on yesterday. Indiana basketball has a damn game on the 27th. It's an exhibition, but I don't care. It's a game on the road down at Thompson Bowling Arena on the campus of the Tennessee Volunteers. Looking forward to going to this arena. It's one of the probably nicer or bigger arenas in the SEC, mainly because of the women's program that Pat Summitt built there back during her days when that sucker was sold out for every game. And the men's program was other than when they had Allen Houston from Louisville. When he played on that for Tennessee, that they had a great run then, although now they're doing great under almost said Mac Brown, but it's not Mac Brown. It's still the guy that used to be at Rick Barnes from Texas.
Rick Barnes. Yep.
Yeah, both Texas guys are off someplace else. But yeah, he's had a hell of a run at Tennessee.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. I mean, they've made a couple Sweet 16s. They went to the Elite Eight last year. They gave Purdue everything they wanted in that Elite Eight game. And ultimately, Purdue went and won. So yeah, Rick Barnes is a very, very good coach. I know people there's been kind of a narrative about him over the years that he can't win the big game and all of this and all of that. But I mean, he gets his team to big games on a very, very regular basis. So they're going to be a good team again this year. That they have a lot to replace. Obviously, Dalton Connect was the sun, moon, and stars for them last year. He was one of the best players in the entire country, maybe the best player outside of Zach Edey, or the most impactful at least. And he scored 28 points in that game, I believe, against Purdue in the Elite Eight, and Edey was just slightly better. I think Edey had 40. So yeah, it's going to be tough to replace him, and I think that they brought in some transfers too, obviously, like Indiana did. And so getting to see those guys on the court is going to be interesting for both teams, especially for Indiana with so many new guys. I do want to kind of throw a word of caution out there. I do think that it's going to be very easy to overreact to this game.
Yeah, you've said that twice. Why is that just because it's an early season game and the expectations for Indiana basketball are, well, I know that Purdue was officially picked as the favorite, which I find I'm not buying that. I see Purdue as a top 4 team, maybe not maybe. I see them as a top 4 team. I do not see them as a top 2 team, period. I do not see them ending up in the top 2. I could be wrong, and we will see. And if that turns out to be the case, I'll say I was wrong. But I don't care what they have coming back. It was built around Zach Edey, and Zach Edey is not walking through that door. You had a guy that was just a generational freak thing. You don't have people come along that does that, but it was because of this gigantic size. They don't have that. Now they have to do it strictly by basketball, straight up basketball, and putting a freshman or a sophomore with very little experience in his stead that weighs probably half as much.
Well, hey, Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be very, very good this year, I think.
Yes, but there's no way on God's green earth that Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to do well very differently and much more athletic and brings more to that position than Zach Edey could ever do. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because Zach Edey still had the numbers he had. I don't think that Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to have anything close to the numbers that Zach Edey had. Therefore, that has to come from someplace else.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they do have a ton of talent that can do that. I think Trey Kaufman-Renn is probably going to average 16 points and 9 rebounds, which is not 25 and 12, right? Like it's hard to replace 25 and 12. That's true. But I do think that, first of all, they have a couple of guys out there who are also giant. So they're not going to lack for size. I do think the rebounding is a question. And I think that is going to be something that is going to be different for them, is they're not going to just be able to dominate the rebounding every game like they did before, although I think they'll still be good. I think they're just so much more athletic than they were last year. I think that Miles Colvin and Cam Heide bring a ton of athleticism. I think those guys are going to be household names in the Big Ten by the end of the year. And then the freshmen they have these 2 guards, Jakari Harris and CJ Cox, 2 true freshmen, who I think are going to be really, really good players in this league. They're physically ready to go. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they brought in guys who are immediately ready to contribute. And then they believe that Braden Smith is a player of the year type guy. They think he can do like all of it. He can be an All-American.
There's no way. He's just not. He's good, but he is not that guy. He is not one of the best guards in America.
His core vision is something else, man.
He's one of the best guards when you have a Zach Edey to play off of, and not that he's not going to have a good season. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that he's not worthy of being first team All Big Ten. He probably is. He's got the experience as being a good point guard, but he's not. Well, all right. I answer it this way: is he NBA level?
Well, no, but I mean I don't think so. But like, I mean,
my point. I agree, and that's my point. There are too many guards that are NBA level and NBA ready.
Yeah, but it should be like, but he's probably gonna produce more in college than a lot of those guys. I think. Like it's not a perfect 1-to-1 of guys who are going to play in the NBA are going to be the ones who average 20 points and 7 assists, right? So I do think he's probably going to produce more than some guys who are going to play in the NBA. So yeah, we'll see. I do think there are questions about Purdue, but the problem is that there's questions about every team in the Big Ten. There is not a team that you look at in the Big Ten and say, hey, this team was dominant, was very good last year, and they're bringing everyone back, right? So, I do think that it's defensible to pick Purdue to win the league, because you're just going, hey, who's always good, and the answer is Purdue, and really no one else at this point, and maybe Illinois. I don't know, but we have to see it from IU. We have to see it from Michigan State, quite frankly. Michigan State, it's been a while since they really put a team out there that was good wire to wire. You have to see it from Ohio State. People think Ohio State's going to be good. Got to see it from them. UCLA is in basically the same position as Indiana, where they were bad for much of last season, figured some things out, but still went under 500, and they then brought in a bunch of transfers. So there isn't a team that jumps out at you and you say, hey, this team has a ton of experience and they're ready to roll immediately. I think everyone in the league is going to be working to figure some things out as we go here, which is kind of fascinating to me. I think it's going to be a lot about the coaches this year. Let's put it that way. I think that the coaching cream is going to rise to the top because you have to figure out how to gel these rosters almost across the board. These teams are brand new.
That I agree with, because on paper, Indiana has the most talent, but they have to get that talent to play, and that talent to play better than everyone else. And the other coaches have to get their talent to play better than Indiana, or vice versa. Purdue, those guys, most of them have played together. They have they should have a cohesiveness, but there will be great change by not having Zach Edey. So where are they going to get those other points from? That's not going to come from. I think it's going to be a conglomerate of Cam Heidi and daggone, there's another name. I'm
Miles Colvin. You're thinking of probably
Miles Colvin. Exactly. Yes. Those guys. Will Caleb First, is he going to, be a bigger part of this going forward? But the thing I don't think that Purdue has that IU has is depth, because Purdue is, and I think someone just pointed it out, they're very young. But and I've talked about that a lot, because that goes back to Matt Painter recruiting rather than mixing it up with the portal and all that. What would have been a 6-man freshman class last year down to 5 because they lost a guy. But still, if you take those 5 and you add the 3 sophomores they have, that's 8 of that's over half of your team, more than half, that are all underclassmen on a team I'm like, okay, they just don't have a lot of depth. Where you look at Indiana, we don't know how it's going to translate, but my God, how deep can we go on this team with guys that you expect production from? It's a pretty, we're talking probably 9 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. My pet theory is that on a lesser IU team, Langdon Hatton would get significant minutes. Like, Langdon Hatton is a good player. I don't think he's going to play very much at all this year because they just have so much back there. But I think he's a good player. They did a really good job this offseason of not only filling the holes they had, but overfilling them, right? Like, you have extra bodies at these positions. I think that was the biggest thing last year, and that's why people were upset, is because they didn't get a guard in the portal, so you didn't have insurance if something happened. And something did happen, right? Xavier Johnson got hurt. So I do think that, and I think Mike Woodson said it himself. He said it at, was it at either Media Day or at Huber's Winery, where he said, basically, I'm not scared of the injury bug this year. Right. And
why would you ever say that?
You jinx yourself. But I understand what he's saying, right? Is that they have the depth to deal with an injury or 2 or 3. Right. And I do think there's not one player on this team that you look at and say, well, if he gets hurt, boy, are we in big trouble. Right. Like, we are going, if the things are going downhill fast. And that was the case the last couple of years, right? When Xavier Johnson got hurt last year and the year before, quite frankly, things went off the rails pretty quickly. And I don't think that's going to be the case with any one single player this year. Omar Ballo is a great player, right? I think he's going to have a fantastic season for IU. If he got hurt, it will be bad, but you could just stick Malik Renew at the 5 and you're going to be just fine, generally speaking, right? So I do think that's it, for just to give one example. Mackenzie Mbako, same thing, right? Mackenzie Mbako, I think, is a very good player, going to have a good season. If he gets hurt, you are not going to fall off a cliff because he's gotten hurt, right? So I do think that's something, there's something to be said for that. And it's considering where the depth was last year, it is a mark of how good Mike Woodson did in the portal this year.
Absolutely. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Make sure you're giving him a follow and be a subscriber up there if you're a Fort Wayne listener. Keep local papers alive. Buddy, we'll see you on Saturday.
Absolutely, Jim. Looking forward to it. See you then.
Thank you, sir. Hey, we've got lots more coming up as we'll take this break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Make sure you stop by and visit Hard Truth Distillery today. Cal Neddenriep and Rick Bozich join us in the next hour when we come back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
Nice to hear different music.
Yep. I found some ones
that one I sent you last night is different than the one that we played, which is cool.
Okay. Do you know what today is the 16-year anniversary of?
Let's see. No.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play it for you.
No, we just the Bears are what we thought they were. What we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in the preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
They are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
16 years.
Oh, man. We got to play that. Now, where did you play that from? Did you play that from the StreamYard download?
Yeah.
That's already in there? Okay. That's a good pickup. Yep. All right, dang it.
Actually, I was wrong. Not at 16. I meant 18 years. Excuse me. 18 years ago.
All right.
All right, are you gonna keep this one short, or are you gonna want to just do a little? What time is Kyle?
Well, Kyle should be joining us in this segment.
Okay, because we have about like a minute and a half until we start.
Kyle should be joining us in this segment.
Let's change this. There we go. All right, I'll add him in, and we'll get started right at 59.
Cool. Hey, Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Good. How Detroit still in?
No, they lost to the Guardians.
Oh.
In 5 games.
Well, a great season.
Yeah, it was quite a run there at the end.
Oh, Mr. Football Candidates. How's that going? Is that a picture?
I would say it's up in the air, I would say, still at this point. I mean, Mark Zachary, I think, still got a good shot at it from Ben Davis, although they're having a tough season. His numbers will stack up.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. with a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music. You can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you on this Wednesday from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Thank you so much for being with us. Joined now by Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. And Kyle, high school season winding down, getting close to the playoffs. As we were, 1 week away from ending the regular season?
Yeah, this is the final week of the regular season. The next week, the sectionals start, but not all of them. It'll be the 4A through 1A first round, and then I would say the full playoffs will be the following week, where you have 5A, 6A, and then of course, everything from 4A on down will be in the sectional semifinals, which is always it always feels like that's kind of the first full week of the playoffs. But next week, yeah, all the 4A, or not all of them, but all the teams who don't have buys from 4A on down will play. And there are some good games out there, but we're still a couple weeks away from all the big dogs really playing in 6A and 5A.
The Indiana Mr. Football race is not over by far, but it's with all of these games in the book, there has to be a group that is definitely forming for that. I know that lots of worthy candidates out there, guys that have had great runs. Mark Zachary, of course, AJ Reynolds right up the road in Martinsville is having a good run.
I'm going to go see Martinsville Friday, actually, play Plainfield. That should be one of the best.
What a segue. Damn,
yeah.
I'm good.
Thank you. But, yeah, that should be, they're having a great season. This could be their first undefeated regular season since 1982. Of course, Coach Siderwitz was in charge of a lot of those teams back then, and they were always very good. But this is a fun team. Brian Duggar's done a great job kind of rebuilding that program. They have a young man, Hunter Stroud, at receiver, who's putting up incredible. He'll be over 1,000 yards probably after this game against Plainfield. Plainfield, very good team. They're going to run the ball. They're going to, they got two guys who can go for over 100 and have multiple times this year. So it's going to kind of be a contrast of styles to an extent. Martinsville likes to throw it, can run it, but also they'll be up against it defensively against a really good. So this is basically the chance for Martinsville to win this conference outright, and then Plainfield, if they can win, they'll grab a share of the conference title because they lost to Decatur earlier this season. Martinsville beat Decatur in that crazy 35-point comeback game. So, but yeah, that's just to set that up. That should be one of the best games of the night on Friday, maybe the best game of the last week of the regular season, at least on paper. But yeah, Mr. Football, I would say, it's a year where I think, we kind of thought Mark Zachary going into it would be the guy, maybe the front runner. I don't think that's changed my mind a whole lot, on who, because even though they're 3-5, his numbers are still very good. He's a guy, and I broke all this down, if you check out the story we did even before the season, and then a couple weeks ago, October 3rd. So yeah, almost 2 weeks ago, wrote a story about some of the potential candidates for it. And, I think his overall body of work is going to put him up there pretty high. And who knows, they could make a run. That they'll be somewhat of an underdog in their sectional, but this is also a year where 6A, there's no real runaway favorite necessarily. Brownsburg and Lawrence North are probably the two, they're the two undefeated teams right now, along with Crown Point. And then Westfield, which only lost to Brownsburg in a really close game. So those four teams maybe slightly ahead, but I mean, there's teams like Warren Central, they've only lost one game. There's team, if you go down the list, I mean, there's just a lot. Cathedral is very good. They'll play Warren on Friday. There's a lot of teams, maybe more than I can remember, that have a chance. So I'm just, I'm saying Ben Davis, don't count him out. Don't count Zachary out. But, there's a lot of other players. And if you look at the history of this award, it's a lot of skill position guys, quarterbacks, running backs especially, and then the occasional receiver. And this is a strong year for receivers. And Zachary's probably even more of a defensive, but he could probably win Mr. Football defensive back, and that may be the route that ends up happening. And then to put his name in for the overall award. But there are a lot of good receivers. John Anthony Hall from Fishers, Davion Chandler's a name I think that keeps rising on the list from Lawrence North. He suffered a little bit of a shoulder injury on Friday. He came down hard on his shoulder, but I talked to him over text the other day. He said it's a sprain and he should be fine. He's icing it up, and I wouldn't expect he'll miss, even if he doesn't play Friday, he'll be good for the playoffs. So I put him in the mix. Jackson Willis of Lutheran, a quarterback who's going to have unbelievable numbers by the end of his career. Already does. I mean, he's already over 8,000 passing yards for his career, so he's top 25 all time. Noah Ehrlich from Crown Point is another guy who a quarterback who's going to Miami of Ohio, played in the state finals last year. I think he's a guy to look out for. Maverick Geske of Brebeuf, who's just putting up. Brebeuf has insane stats every week, and he's like breaking all-time records weekly, basically. And there's some other guys too. Jerron Thomas from Concord, who's they're undefeated. Elijah Price, another guy from Ben Davis who has great numbers at running back. Damian Shanklin, if you're looking for a defensive guy at Warren Central, he's had an outstanding career there. Brandon Logan, who's going to Notre Dame, he plays at Fort Wayne Snyder, another defensive back. So you can go down. I mean, there's several names you can kind of think of who'd be in that mix, and certainly that's not an encompassing list that I just mentioned, but some of the top guys anyway.
You mentioned that in 6A, there's no quote unquote juggernaut, basically, which is like college football. And I am loving now two different reasons. With college football, it's a combination of the transfer portal and NIL, but it has done. I don't even think that this was the intention, but what it has done is equalize all of college football, and it is great. There are no juggernauts. Texas looks like the best team, but there are a bunch of teams after that all have a shot. And no matter if it's college or high school, to me, that is much more entertaining. You don't know who's going to win. So many more teams have a shot. That brings more excitement and enthusiasm to the sport in general. And is there a reason why you think that is the case in 6A this year? They're just are teams just other teams just better, or they're just not some of the superstars that may have been there in the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things, and I would agree with you on the college football side. You look at Army and Navy I see your scroll there at the bottom, and it's got Army and Navy are both top 25 teams, and it's like, man, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's unusual, but
amazing.
I always like watching those teams anyway with their
Army Navy. How about Indiana? It's in there too. I mean, mention all those teams.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I just say Army Navy because I like their offenses. I was always I'm a wishbone guy, but yeah,
they've been running that offense for 1,000 years, it seems like.
Yep. But I mean, from a 6A standpoint, I think we kind of knew going in it was maybe going to be that type of year. Ben Davis lost. They had such a great senior class last year, and even they got pushed a couple of times. Brownsburg was excellent last year. Center Grove was coming off three straight state championships. And they barely lost to Ben Davis, in the semi-state. So, there were some outstanding teams at the top last year, and I would say all three of those teams, certainly Ben Davis and even Brownsburg and Center Grove to an extent, are not as strong as they were last year. And then you look at the number one team, and it's Brownsburg, and they were 8-0 and ranked number one. But I would say last year's team was probably slightly better than they are this year. But it's just that kind of speaks to, I'm not saying anything against them. I'm just saying that's kind of the nature of where we're at right now in 6A is very balanced, 1 through. And this is a great year for a team like Lawrence North, which does have a great senior class and is kind of has the juice to them right now with the speed that they have on the offense and defense. And they are taking full advantage. And you look at the games they've won the last 3 weeks. They've beaten Ben Davis, Warren Central, and Center Grove. Those are, you could argue those are the 3 predominant programs in Indianapolis and in the state in 6A year in and year out. They've beaten all 3 of them handily. Last week was the closest game they had against Center Grove of those 3 anyway. And it wasn't even, it was a 20-point game in the fourth quarter. So, it's amazing what they've done. They may be the team. The Lawrence North could be the team, and we don't probably give them. It's almost like you have to prove it a little bit more when you're Lawrence North compared to a Ben Davis or a Warren. But they have done nothing but prove it so far. So this is a good year for them to be good. Although I will say, they have to match up with Cathedral most likely in the sectional after they have to play their rival Lawrence Central in 2 weeks too. So that won't be easy, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. I mean, I can't wait. It's kind of sets up as a, sort of a grab bag this year where you don't know game to game, who's going to be, who's going to come out, and that'll make it a more fun tournament, I think. And maybe we end up with some new blood in the state finals, and maybe we don't, but I think the route there is going to be more interesting than it has been, and it's always great. 6A is always so much fun, but I think it could be even more fun this year.
Absolutely. Kyle Neddenriep, thank you, sir. Make sure you're giving Kyle a follow and keeping up with all things that are our high school sports in the state of Indiana through the Indy Star. Be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you, brother.
You bet. Thanks, Jim. Have a good day.
Absolutely. You too. Up next, our good buddy Rick Bozich will join us here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, high atop Rick House 1, brought to you by our friends at Hard Truth and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. We'll be back right after this. Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mashed Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. Richard, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I cannot complain. I assume you are coming to Bloomington Saturday.
I'll be there.
Big weekend. Everybody else is going to be here, I guess. Why not you? Yeah, I've seen so many people announcing, I am going to be in Bloomington. I'm like, I saw one guy posted, I'm like, does anybody care?
Media person or a
no,
person?
I think he was a wannabe media person, maybe.
Somebody sent me a story this morning that John Feinstein wrote about IU football.
I did not know that. I did see that Dave Portnoy post that maybe he's going to be here for that game.
Yeah, isn't Barstool going to do some kind of a show or something before the game or whatever?
That's what I heard.
Okay, there you go. Drawing the buzz, man. Indiana doesn't care. It's drawing the attention.
Yep. What else is new?
Really?
How many more?
I don't know how many, but more.
Today?
I don't know if, as you know, a class action, you have to have 2. So those guys probably are basically taking the bullets right now as the 2 that have been announced, but there will be multiple others. I don't know how many.
it's odd to deal with. Yeah, that one's got me. It's a tricky one.
Yes, it is.
But no one is immune.
What is hard truth? Is that a form of bourbon or what?
Well, they make bourbon. The Hard Truth Distillery is located in Nashville in Brown County, on 325 acres. It originally started out, they just was a pizza place. Then they started making beer. Then they were allowed to then own a distillery, and they produce incredible stuff and have been now, and just released with their sweet mash bourbon, their first like 5-year-old bourbon. They're some of their stuff is coming of age now, but the location itself is a great destination, full service, big restaurant with an outdoor patio. They've got an amphitheater. Brown County is amazing, as you know, and it's set right in the middle of Brown County. Distillery tours, ATV tours. It's just a beautiful place. But yeah, they make a ton of different spirits, produce spirits, internationally award-winning spirits.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'm gonna get it started for you guys.
Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com joins us now, and lots to talk about. Of course, I talked briefly earlier about the situation that is going on with in the IU basketball community family, and it's just beginning. As I said earlier, Rick, the sources I've spoken to, these are just the first two, because this is a class action lawsuit. There will be many more coming forward. When, who, and all of that, I don't know. But to file it, they needed at least two, and I guess these Charlie and Harris were the guys who said, okay, I'll be I'll run through the wall first. But you've been around the program for a long time, and as this was a long time situation over a program, and you hate to see it anywhere, but of course someplace of which we both cover.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen something like this. I guess it was at Michigan State, or and then the Ohio State stuff and Penn State or whatever. It's disturbing. It's upsetting, and it's hopefully they can get to the truth and sort through what really happened and watch it unfold as it does. I mean, I covered Harris. I covered Charlie Miller. Those guys were players in the mid-'90s. A couple of them, I think, played with Sharon Wilkerson and Jeff. I saw that Charlie played 1 year with Pat Knight. So, and Dr. Bama, I don't really know. I just know he was around the basketball program for a long, long time. I don't even know. Is he still alive?
You know what? I have not looked that up yet. I believe so. I think possibly might be 88. But I am not positive on that, and I would have to
check,
look that up, to be honest with you. But yeah, it is what it is. But there's not a whole lot that I can add to it. There's nothing, because right now, it's just, most people know what the rest of us know.
Right. I read the lawsuit last night, at least as much of it as I could understand, and pretty straightforward on what they said, and it's pretty upsetting to read.
Yep, it is what it is, and we'll let it play out. Now, moving forward, this basketball team kicks off the season. Not great timing for all of that as Hoosier hysteria rolls around. But of course, there's no relationship to what is going on with this team and the prospects of what they have coming up. Hoosier hysteria Friday night for both the men's and the women's basketball teams. Not mostly just a show. You're not going to learn anything from that, but just an opportunity for the fans to get out and see these guys is all this is.
Yeah, and gals. Want the women to be there too. And they got number 25 in the preseason poll yesterday. The men are number 17. So Indiana's one of a small group of schools in the country that have top 25 men's and women's teams. So should be a lot of energy in the building, I would think. For the men, obviously created by all the new players that have come in, specifically, in my opinion, Miles Rice and Umar Ballo and Luke Goody and Cannon Carlisle. And for the women, see how they react, move on, respond to losing Mackenzie Holmes, arguably the greatest player in the history of the program.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, right now, Indiana is one of just 5 schools that has football, men's and women's basketball ranked in the AP top 25. You're talking Alabama. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it's not USC. Ole Miss was Tennessee, one of the teams. Maybe? Very possibly. Let's see. There was one that was kind of. I was like, well, maybe Iowa State. Which good for them. But up in the higher air, where fans have been hoping for quite some time. But I don't think they expected the highest ranked of the 3 to be the football program.
Yeah, like Lee Corso once famously said, stop and take a picture of all this to prove that it happened. I remember I don't think it might have been Corso was the coach when they obviously weren't 6-0 because this is the first time they've been 6-0 since 1967, but there was a year they might have been like 4-0 and played Nebraska, and Corso was the coach and a halfback by the name of I Am Hip. Do you remember that? He was.
Oh, yes.
He came in, and I think they beat Indiana like 60.
Oh, yeah, I read your article on that.
63-7. Oops. So, it's going to be sold out. It's a national television game on Fox at noon. You're going to have another ranked team that you're playing. There's a lot at stake for Indiana in this game too. Actually, when you last time they filled the stadium was Cincinnati, and that was sort of the tipping point to head downhill. This is their chance to sort of, you get to 7-0, and then you got Washington the next week, and Washington just got blown out by Iowa last week. It's not crazy to say 8-0. You get to 8-0, you start really let your imagination go wild on what this team could possibly accomplish. And I'm really interested to see how this unfolds on Saturday. Indiana, I think, is legit. I don't think they're a fluke 6-0. The teams that they've beaten them all decisively, beaten them all by at least 2 touchdowns. You looked last Saturday or Friday night when, how many 6 days after they blew out Northwestern in the fourth quarter, Northwestern goes on the road and blows out Maryland. So that win looks better. So let's see how good everybody is on Saturday.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to that, but I agree with you. I have not changed my perspective on this team. I still see an 11-1 season as more than a possibility. Of course, things have to happen. Health has to stay in there and all this, that, and the other thing. But I think that they end up beating Nebraska. I think they beat Washington. I think they beat Michigan State. And then I think they knock off Michigan at home and just really seal this incredible season. And then we're looking at a potential 10-0 Indiana going into a 9-1 Ohio State. which would be phenomenal. But yeah, that's letting the imagination run wild, but that's okay.
Well, but I mean, you and a lot of people, I mean, there's some podcasts I listen to and different things that before the season were saying, oh, yeah, they're going to win at least 8 or they're going to win 10 or whatever. And I was thinking, dudes, study the history books. Indiana never wins 10. And I picked 5 because I didn't believe it was, the turnaround like this was possible, and I was wrong. So you got to be impressed by Cignetti, a guy. First of all, to put his neck out on the chopping block like that he did from the very beginnings when he got there, saying the kind of things he said, and then quietly working over the summer. I mean, when you look at all the things he had to do to put this team together, I mean, it was a lot. I mean, he had to bring guys in from a lot of different places. He had to pick the right guys. He had to, in terms of their ability to play, he had to pick the right guys in terms of their ability to buy into a team. He hasn't been afraid to let guys leave who didn't buy into a team, including some guys who were talented and could probably help them play. He just like, okay, if you don't want to be here, okay, this is what we're doing. We're going to move on without you. And it's impressive. And he's a legitimate difference maker as a coach. Some guys are just good coaches. This guy's a difference maker.
Yeah, I wrote down on a piece of paper, I think it was after week 2 maybe, and I showed it to Don Fisher, and it said, I wrote down, I can't remember exactly, but I saved it. It's in my bag. 11-1, Cignetti, National Coach of the Year, Big Ten Coach of the Year, and maybe something else. And Don just laughed and said, oh, yeah, okay, big boy. I'm like, yeah, all right. And I just tucked it back away, and I'm going to bring it out at the end of the season. But you have, I get it from people though, because if you go on the history, there's no chance. But there has been such a morph change in college football and the ability, even though I can't believe you could do what he has done this fast, because he is completely changing the culture from within. And that includes the fans. As you see the sellout a week and a half before a game, forget that it's a sellout. It was a sellout a week and a half prior to the game. So that's crazy. But here's Troy Aikman talking about Curt Cignetti.
There was a couple of years ago, I said something came up. The player was from Indiana. He mentioned it or something. And I said, hey, I'm surprised. I didn't realize they still play football at Indiana.
Oh, no.
And then, then you're like, okay, now I should get on Twitter because I'm going to get blown up. People are so sensitive about everything. And now just a few years later, I'm outwardly being supportive of Indiana. I mean,
yeah.
So I was watching them play UCLA a few weeks ago. Didn't know anything about this Coach Cignetti, Carl Cignetti. And
Carl.
I mean, how about that guy?
Yeah.
What he's done is amazing. So all of a sudden I've become this huge fan of this guy's. And now I'm a fan of the Hoosiers. So I'm talking to Joe I'm a bigger fan for the Hoosiers than he is.
Oh, I like
There you go. Carl. Hey, Carl. Oh, man, that's a new one. We're going to start using that. Hey, Carl.
Must be Kurt's twin brother. He takes care of the special teams.
I'm telling you, man, that was funny. But yeah, the just all of the attention this has brought Indiana is crazy, and that's part of why football is so important to a school and to a program, because of what it does. And this is what Indiana has been missing out on all of these years.
I mean, you read stories about Alabama. I've read stories about Ole Miss, different South Florida that have used football to grow enrollment, to recruit more higher quality students from out of state to get them to come there. And, like it or not, and we like it, sports is part of your college experience. And it's just a great way to unify the alumni base. I'm sure contributions go up not only to the athletic department, but to the alumni association. You can hit people with more mailings and say, hey, support your school or whatever. And as we've talked about before, I mean, every school needs to be a football school. The Indiana is at a disadvantage against the Ohio States, the Wisconsins, the Penn States, the Michigans, because they're selling out 7 or 8 home football games a year, 100,000 seats. So tickets in Indiana's averaging 40,000 for 6 home games some year. That's a huge financial disadvantage they've been at. So this year they're finally, I give credit to Pamela Whitten and really give credit to Scott Dolson and Buckner and the guys on the board of trustees. They said that's a big check to write to Tom Allen, but it's the one that has to be written, and so far it's turned out to be the right one.
Yeah, for it to start returning, getting a return on their investment this quickly, even I think they would be shocked. Not that it's a positive turn, but the massive way it has turned. I mean, this is boy, if a 180-degree turn could be any more of an opposite, there's nothing that this program is doing that is any correlation to what their past is. They have been able to leave all of that in the dirt and in the dust, because there's no relationship from most of these players that are on this team today to any of that. And I think Cignetti doesn't even allow that into the conversation.
No.
It's the here and the now. It's where we are. It's this blueprint. It's this plan. It's this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how, when you see how much difference the right coach and the right hire makes to any program.
For sure. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's a cultural change, and it's sort of reminiscent to me of what I saw Howard Schnellenberger do at Louisville when he came in. He made a bunch of big promises, and a lot of people rolled their eyes and thought he's what do you mean? We're on a collision course with a national championship. The only variable is time. But to really make a change in a big organization or a program that's had a tradition of not succeeding, that's what you have to do. You have to shock the system and get everybody thinking a different way. And he's been able to do that and then back it up. So he's halfway there this year. He's got 6 more to go. And we're all of college football is going to be watching to see how it plays out. There's been a flood of stories about IU. Pat Forty wrote one at SI.com. John Feinstein has one, I think, today at the Washington Post. Nicole Auerbach wrote one, I think, at NBC Sports. USA Today's had one. I heard there's at least one national writer coming in for the game on Saturday, so there'll be more. But they're still out there. If you read some of these stories, when they talk about the playoff contenders, they have the traditional teams in there, but then they have Indiana like in the, they're eligible now, but they're not going to be when
they're not in the top 12. They're not in most people's top 12.
No, they're not.
At the end of the year.
That's just because people aren't used to seeing Indiana there. If Michigan had beaten the same kind of teams that Indiana's beaten this year, the way they've done it, every win by 2 touchdowns or more, never trailing at all, having a quarterback that ranks first in the league in passing, Michigan would be, they'd be right up there. But because it's Indiana, people aren't going to buy in until they're actually 12-0, and some people still aren't going to do it at that point, saying it was an easy schedule, it was a fluke season, and all that stuff. So that's where Cignetti, I'm sure, is like, that stuff's irrelevant. We don't care about that.
Well, and they use it as fodder. I mean, he wants that chip on their shoulder to stay humble and hungry. Well, this is part of how you do that. You don't read your positive clippings, but you can sure read these where people don't have faith in you. They still don't have the confidence in you. And he'll use that to continue to further what they're doing. And this will be the toughest matchup they faced as this Nebraska team comes in. But it's I've called it a something has to give kind of a game, because Indiana averaging 48 points a game and Nebraska giving up 11 points a game. But I when it comes down to it, I think it's just going to be that Indiana's offense is just too much. I'm not saying they're going to blow Nebraska out. I don't think that Nebraska's offense can match Indiana's. And I think Indiana's defense may not be exactly the same as Nebraska's. It's just, there's a slight difference maybe. But I think that Nebraska's defense will find it much more difficult to keep up with Indiana than Indiana does keeping up with Nebraska's offense.
Yeah. And Nebraska's, got something to prove too. I mean, they're a program that, we remember in the 80s and the 90s, they were traditionally national championship contenders. They won multiple national championships under Coach Tom Osborne. They haven't been able to do it since the mid 90s. And they've gone through a whole string of coaches, whether they thought Scott Frost was going to be the guy, or they thought, what was the guy? Frank Solich was the guy. Who was the guy they got from LSU was a defensive coordinator? Bo Pelini. He was the guy. They've tried all the different things. Nebraska's back. Nebraska back. It's back. It's sort of like Indiana basketball. And they have never really gotten back. Well, they're 5-1, and they come in and beat a team ranked ahead of them. They're going to jump up in the polls, and they'll be 6-1, and they'll be thinking they're a team that has a chance to do. I think they play Ohio State after they play Indiana. So this is their moment too.
Absolutely, and there's nothing to say that. I keep saying the Indiana is not going to go to Columbus and beat Ohio State. I don't see that happening. I don't have that on my bingo card, but there's nothing to say that it can't happen. I mean, I'm not dumb enough to say that this or that cannot happen. It's just not likely to happen because of for just so many different reasons. But it doesn't have to. We don't have to make this a complete off the rails crazy train 12-0 season for Indiana. That I don't know that people could handle that. That would just where would Curt Cignetti go from there if he comes in his first season and went 12-0? I mean, you want to talk about, even though there is no pressure at a place because they've sucked and they've never won, you come in and go 12-0. Man, did you just raise that bar?
What's funny is I just read a story from a columnist in Florida. He's got Curt Cignetti high on his list of guys that Florida should hire. We'll already see that's going to be another story that's going to be that Auburn or Florida, one of these SEC schools that's willing to pay a coach $10 million, is going to come in and try and recruit Cignetti away. So
yeah,
we'll see.
That'll be a problem. Although not that. And you don't have to be in it for the money to affect conversations, because when you double, go from, what was he making at JMU? Probably 2.5 million, maybe. And now he'll be bumping up towards 5 million at Indiana. But if someone comes in and says, "Hey, yeah, we're going to give you 10," it's impossible not to listen to that. I've got to be honest with you, but although I do know that he's never been a guy who has jumped from job to job. He's got all these assistants who also came with him, moved their families. Cignetti's wife likes Bloomington a lot. And they're enjoying it right now. Plus, he's doing what no one has ever done at a place where it's never happened.
Right.
And it has happened at Auburn. It has happened at Florida. It's happened by multiple people. So this is just such a bigger challenge, and I think it would leave such a bigger legacy for him if he could come in and do this on a consistent basis and turn Indiana into a team in college football that is in the conversation with these other teams that are now, because there's going to be a breakaway.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this kind of a situation. We've seen it at other places. I mean, Lance Leopold did some big things at Kansas. Immediately, he was on everybody's hot list. Matt Campbell went in and won at Iowa State. Every year, he's been on people's hot list. Heck, when Tom Allen did really good at IU those 2 years, 2019 and 2020, he got the big contract extension because people thought Florida State or somebody might try and recruit him. It's the way the game is played. I'm sure at the end of the year that they'll sit down and talk about his contract, and he's earned a raise. And but if Cignetti is true to what he preaches and what he talks about, that's not something to talk about now. That's something to talk about at the end of the season.
Absolutely. We've got to take a break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. When we come back, we'll talk about the fact that there's going to be a breakaway in college football. A bigger change is yet to come with the SEC and the Big Ten leading the way. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, brought to you by our good friends down at the Rusty Gator in Bedford. Back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm.
Hey, and Robin, when we get all this stuff, hopefully it's all on the same volume level.
Yeah. I can go through and fix them up.
Signetti's going to be on Pat McAfee today?
Yeah. That is apparently the case. McAfee apparently said that yesterday. So that'll be a treat.
Wonder what time that is.
Well, it won't be at the very start, I'm sure.
I mean, when is IU practice, in the morning or the afternoon?
I think that they practice in the afternoon. But I don't know that to be a fact.
Are you in the camp with all the other people saying that Braylon Mullins is going to UConn?
I'm not.
You're not?
Nope.
Just because it's what you believe, or you've heard something?
Oh, I picked him to go to IU early on, and I'm just not going to break away from it now. If he goes there, he goes there, but I don't know. I've heard the only one thing I've heard is there's a difference in NIL positively towards Indiana.
Yeah, I've heard that. But substantial too.
Yeah. So that to me makes a huge difference. Yeah, I just I'm going to stick with his dad wouldn't be able to see. I mean, I always think too about, I know kids will travel, but parents love to watch their kids play. And how the hell, if your kid's at UConn, how many games are you going to get to see?
Right.
You have to be pretty independently wealthy to be able to make that deal happen.
Right. Are you going Friday night?
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, I mean, there's just nothing to be gained from it.
Right.
It's kind of a deal you kind of just have to go to. But
are they going to scrimmage at all?
I think that they are.
Okay.
Now, how much they really do, I don't know. And whether or not you see Trey Galloway. Oh, I bet you would in some light stuff because he's been practicing. I don't know where Kai Newton will be. Yeah, he's been practicing. As a matter of fact, when we were at media days, he talked about that he was close to being back. I would not expect Ja'Kai Newton much from him. I don't know, man.
There's no reason to use him in a thing like that. And
he's like who's the kid that was here under Archie Miller that almost didn't get to play for 2 years because of the
Hunter.
Yeah, the situation he dealt with in his leg, which was an odd deal.
Also like Maurice Creek too.
Man, that one was bad.
I'm gonna get it started back for you guys.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always, joined by Rick Bozich. And Rick, college football, we're still not done with the change. We've seen the conference realignment continues. I just saw that Hawaii is moving from to the Mountain West from the West. WAC, yeah. So what's going to happen is one of these conferences is just going to get dissolved, essentially, I think. But the bigger picture is college football, and the SEC and the Big Ten are the big dogs. And if Greg Sankey had his way, it would be basically the NFL, an NFL type setup. And he doesn't care that there's 60 teams in it or 110 teams. He'd be fine with 30 or 40, I think, and just create this super league. But how do you assure that you're going to be in that super league if you're one of the programs in one of these conferences that has not traditionally done well? Prior to this year, Indiana fans would probably have reason to start to worry going forward about being included in that. And I think that this is a massive change for them in a very positive way for a number of reasons. For the obvious is there, but the big picture also, this could be huge for a team like Indiana, a program like Indiana.
Yeah, if they're going to proceed on this thing where they're going to have a scheduling agreement where there would be a collection of early season high-powered SEC Big Ten matchups that they would put a couple of them on every Saturday and draw king-sized viewing numbers, which would enable them to add more money onto the television contracts. That's the direction that we're heading. And if that's the direction your league is heading, you better sit up and take football seriously. And, you want to be a part of that. They claim they're not going for super leagues, but when you meet together in Nashville and it's just two leagues there, your actions say a lot.
Absolutely. Now, I don't expect them to disclude some of the teams out like Miami, Clemson. They have to be in it. Oklahoma's in the SEC now. Oklahoma State, or some of the other teams that are in the Big 12 that have come up. So but where there's going to be a line, and do we get to the soccer kind of a model to where you are relegated to up and down from the big boy league to the not the big big boy league?
Maybe. I mean, one of the key things is going to be how this plays out this year with the 12-team playoff. How many teams will the SEC and the Big Ten get in between those 12 spots? And then how do they perform once they're in the playoff? And if they fill 8 to 9 spots and the final 4 are all Big Ten or SEC teams, that'll just encourage them even more to keep pushing forward on their plan.
Absolutely. And there's no doubt, I think, that it's going to happen. For one thing, there's nothing to stop them. They have the ability to do it. And especially the Big Ten, they're now the TV situation. That's where there might be a big issue, because the Big Ten obviously is affiliated and aligned with the Big Ten Network under Fox. Then the SEC is under ESPN, ABC. So there is a separation there, especially if we start to see more of these crossover games. I guess that would be easy. If it's whoever has the home game, that's the network that it would be on. But I think that's the direction that we're absolutely headed to today.
Yeah, I agree. And thinking of it from a local perspective, I think the one way it could be an impact in this area is if that's what happens, I can see the Louisville-Kentucky game would be a casualty, and the Louisville-Indiana game could be back on, as a possibility. Because if you're asking teams that you're going to have to play your conference schedule, plus another game against one of these other power conferences, I would think that's the direction it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Here's some information for the viewers that they'd like to write down. I got my source. Coach Signetti will be on McAfee or McAtee. Which one is it? McAfee? McAfee, his show at 12:40. So if you want to watch or listen to what he has to say.
Or just rewatch it, especially for those of you listening on
radio. If you want to see it live, though, it's 12:40.
Yeah, you just tape it like I do, or record it, tape it. Dating myself there. There's no such thing as tape anymore. Before the show today, Rob reminded me that today is the 18th year anniversary of a very, very special happening, I guess you would call it. You know what happened 18 years ago today, Rick?
Was it the White Sox won the American League pennant?
No, I said 18 years, not 1,800 years ago.
I was 19 years.
So we just the Bears are what we thought they were. They're what we thought they were. We played them in preseason. Who the hell takes a third game in a preseason like it's bull? We played them in the third game. Everybody played 3 quarters. The Bears are who we thought they were. And that's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook. No,
Yeah, I don't know. I still never understood what the hell he was talking about. I'm like, what is he so pissed about? I never understood that, but I've always enjoyed it and found the entertainment value in it.
R.I.P. Denny Green.
Yeah, 18 years ago, man.
I guess he thought his team was better and the Bears really weren't that good, and he got tired of people talking about how good the Bears were. Yeah. He used to be the coach at Northwestern, so he probably got tired of not getting any pub because the Bears get all the pub in football in Chicago.
Oh, well, he should be there now. They'll have that brand new $800 million stadium up on the lake.
Hey, like I said earlier, Northwestern, I was impressed by the way they beat Maryland last Friday night.
I'm telling you, Jack Louse, their quarterback, has just improved every game. If you go back and look at his stats, the game before they played Indiana, they had a bye, but the game before he was like 8 of 27, 58 yards. He was terrible, awful. Indiana, he looked okay. And then the following week, he looked really good against another team that has a good quarterback. And so, that was impressive to do that on the road. So that win over Northwestern is going to look better and better. Rick, what's coming up for you this weekend? Obviously, you're coming to Bloomington for Indiana, the undefeated Hoosiers, number 16 in the AP poll, taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was Louisville Basketball Media Day. It was stunning to walk into the gym and see a team where every coach, every player, every equipment person, every trainer, every strength and conditioning guy was different. It's a total team makeover. They play their first exhibition game Monday night, but mainly I'm looking forward to being up there and seeing you on Saturday in Bloomington.
Cannot wait, my friend.
I got the email. Is it an email yesterday or leave early or something? Get there early.
Get there early, baby. Get there early. Avoid the traffic and all of that because it's a noon kickoff. And with it being a sellout, you're going to have people coming in from out of town and any Nebraska fans.
What's the weather forecast? Is that okay?
Well, it's going to be beautiful, except it will be chilly in the morning. I'm not going to lie to you. So bundle up, baby. Bundle up. But looking
coming
forward
with
to
Tom
seeing
Lane, so make sure you come up in the press box and say hello to us.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be there. Can't wait. I saw Tom
last time he was up, so
looking forward to it. Tell him I said hello.
Appreciate
you, Rick Bozich from DRB.com.
Hi,
Joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got that's going to wrap it up for us today from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. And what an incredible fun day it was. Big thanks to Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Also, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Rick Bozich, of course, from WDRB.com. We got to hear from the dearly departed Dennis Green, as well as Troy Aikman. So big fun day. Big thanks to Rob for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Until tomorrow,
Well, we will return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.